And we are live here, not live, but we're here um, talking about long.
Alive.
Yes, we are living. um, so, uh, this is going to be our first a movie review, official review of anything, really. Um, and we're going to be discussing Longlegs. Um, I'm going to go with the initial thoughts, the initial impression, more so, most broadly. Um, I didn't really like it. I actually didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an active part of me that is like, I actually don't think this is a good story. There's a lot of good things about the movie itself. There was good cinematography. There was some a little bit of fear based things that worked well for horror, and then the acting was good. I think Lee could have been better, but maybe not so much in the acting part as much as in the director directing her part.
Right.
Would probably could have probably been better. I think Nick Cage was great. He was phenomenal as Nick Cage. So that's gonna be my most broad and forthright impression. What about you?
Yeah, my initial thoughts whenever we talked last week, I had seen it and you didn't, and I was trying to not come off negative with it because the main thing I said to you was like lower hype, lower
Yes.
your hype because I was hyped for it going in. I didn't have like crazy hype, but it was
Yeah.
like I like whenever you see the trailer and all that stuff, I was saying like probably could be. I didn't believe all the stuff in the trailer of like scariest movie in the past decade, like all that bull
Yeah.
crap. But I was like, it could like I wasn't thinking scary, but I was saying like could be like the best horror movie of the year based on like all
Hmm.
the stuff I'm seeing with the trailer, specifically the cinematography, because that's initially what had me wanting to see this movie was the first trailer that came out was like a minute and a half, and you couldn't really tell what the story was. You knew like FBI lady and then just weird, creepy cinematography. And I was like, the cinematography alone in this trailer has me wanting to go see this movie
Hmm.
because it looks great, the cinematography. Um, so I go to see the movie and I think it's fine. I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't think it's crap. Um, I guess I lean like between fine and good. I wouldn't even say it's good. It's definitely not great, definitely not amazing. Like all the
Yeah.
hype and the initial critic stuff and all that stuff coming out, like it's definitely not that. It was way overhyped when I saw it. And even with like time having passed, like after my initial disappointment of it coming out because of that hype,
Hmm.
even time having passed and reflecting on it, yeah, it's still like very much very overhyped, which I think is a detriment to it. It overall, box office wise, was helpful for it in terms of people leaving the theater and their experience with it afterwards. Definitely hurt it.
Yeah.
The marketing definitely hurt it in terms of people their takeaway from it, walking out of the theater with that. Yes, they got their money. They got a lot of money.
Hmm.
Probably not a crap ton, but maybe let's
Hmm.
say 30 million or whatever. It's maybe like I looked at it, the most it is a $10 million budget based on what they were saying. Some people were saying like $3 million budget, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So they made good chunk of change. But in terms of how we all feel afterwards, yes, I've seen some reviews that aren't the possible paid critic reviews, where it's user reviews that are like, I thought it was great, I thought it was amazing. I I think that's almost a minority. usually I'm in the minority of thinking something is like fine or okay. I think
Hmm.
this is the first time I'm in the majority where it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine, it's okay. Like
Yeah.
I'm happy it swung a little bit differently this time. People like are kind of on my side of this of like yeah, like and like some people don't like it.
Hmm.
You had mentioned you didn't like it. I like parts of it. I think the biggest issue, if we're slowly navigating out of initial thoughts, the biggest issue for me is the writing or the plot. Because I'll say you had already mentioned it. My highs with this movie, like what like pros of this movie, great cinematography. Cinematography does a lot of heavy lifting for this
Yeah.
movie. It does a ton of heavy lifting. Where if it didn't have as good cinematography, if it was just standard horror movie cinematography, you're looking at like this isn't that good to like
Hmm.
it's okay.
Hmm.
Like if it wasn't for the cinematography, um, so it does a lot of heavy lifting. Um, the actors, I think, all did a good job. I think they all did a good job for like what they were given.
Hmm.
Like any of the complaints of writing or anything like that, any dialogue stuff, that's not on the actors. I think they did good with what they're given, which I don't have a ton of dialogue complaints. It's more just like, I don't know, when I try to boil down why I think it's just fine, like, I don't know, I guess it lies more in the narrative.
Well, now that you kind of say that, it is funny that I really can't pinpoint exactly what
That's
it
the
is
thing.
about the
I've
story.
been trying to think why I don't like it or love it. I
Hmm.
don't hate it. I think it's fine. I think it's a fine movie, but like I don't think it's good or great.
Well, I'm gonna. All right, we are 7 minutes in. I'm Austin Light, by the way. I'm an. This is coming off of a podcast we just did, so you can go back to my channel and see that. But this is our first review. I'm Austin Light, and I'm a creator for comics. I'm my own brand, American Demon Comics, and so is Brandon Ingram here with Dismay Comics. So now that our introductions are done, 7 minutes in, let's think about like the point by point system of the movie, and um,
I'll first mention this. I personally really liked the movie from the beginning to right after the like I like this scene when she was like sitting in the FBI thing and it's like all these tests, essentially like psychic type tests.
mhm,
Like I like that scene. At first I was like, what's the point of this? And then like once she's in the car with the two FBI people afterwards, they kind of talk about that. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
interesting. Like from the beginning to right when she's in the car with them, basically the first 15 to 20 minutes, I actually really liked that. Like the scene with her and that random Chad Chin FBI agent, blonde Chad Chin FBI agent, when he dies.
yeah,
I like that scene. I actually like that scene a good bit because of again cinematography, how like zoomed out it is, and it's like feeling like because she has that initial like I called it the whole time her spidey sense. She has a
yeah.
spidey sense basically. Um, her
I
spidey
got a
sense
Satan
goes off.
sense.
Yeah, she's got a Satan sense, and her Satan sense goes off, and she can't pinpoint, but she's like something's wrong about this. Something's weird with that house, sort of thing.
Hmm.
And like going from there, I like that scene. Um, it's just like afterwards, it slowly like it starts going slowly and slowly more downhill to when you get
Hmm.
to the ending. I don't like the ending of the movie.
No.
Like the last 10 to 15 minutes, I don't like it at all. And that's one thing. Even the people that like the movie, they like I've seen a lot of people say like, yeah, I don't like that ending. Like that last 10 to 15 minutes in that house sort of thing. Like I don't like that. Um,
I feel like there's a
but
lot of tension,
yeah,
but I don't
well,
feel like that they used it very good.
they build tension, but they never do anything with it.
Mhm.
Like I'm not saying you have to build tension and then a jump scare. You don't have to do that, which there are a couple jump scares in this movie, but it's not overplayed sort of thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be a jump scare, but it's just like build tension, and then okay, now next scene. It's like you could have had
Yeah,
something
yeah.
there. Like I like feeling creeped out, but you can build on the creep, build on the
Mhm.
tension to where
Push it.
boom,
Yeah.
it's like oh. Again, doesn't have to be a jump scare.
Um, so one thing that I wanna talk about real quick, um, like, that I've gotta talk about, that I've actually really enjoyed about the movie, is that they had some scenes where the shadows are manifesting into, like, a Satan type, figure, a goat-headed, horned kind of figure, or there's eyes, or there's something, that seems to be kind of manifesting in if you're just you're staring at the movie,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's on a scene, and yeah, it starts to kind of come together, but as it's coming together, it goes away.
Oh yeah.
It changes your scene to something else, or the camera just pans to somebody else, um, and I like that because for me, I thought that I was just making that up in my head. I thought that that was just my brain
Oh
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
put something there, and then coming out of the movie, other people said that they saw that, and then I think I watched a review where somebody said that was happening, and so I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. uh, so them actually kind of putting an aspect of like me feeling crazy and it was a really good touch. I just don't think they used it very effectively
Yeah,
narratively. As again, I think
yeah.
that the story just didn't use everything that was there to its best potential.
That's the thing is like great creepy cinematography and just great cinematography throughout most of it, as well as like great creepy images sometimes. Sometimes just a 3 4 second scene like you had mentioned. I thought you were talking about this at first, but the you see it two, maybe three times in the movie where it's Satan. The
Hmm.
it's like it's a black figure like sitting on a bed or something, and there's like a veil over it kind of, and there's like yellow eyes. It's like 2 or 3 seconds you see that at least twice in the movie,
Hmm.
where it's like it like one of the times it happened is whenever she's knocked out and there's going through like these like weird hallucination stuff in her head, and it's one of the times, and I was like, man, like that's so creepy. The thing is, I saw that specific shot or that specific scene in the trailer, but seeing it in the movie, I was like, man, that's so creepy. Man, that's only 3 seconds of this movie.
Well, I think that the again, as a tool, using it for only a few seconds really works.
Hmm.
Um, where it's just long enough that you realize it's there, and then it's brief enough to make you feel like you're crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I and I I don't think I saw that particular thing. I might have, but again, these things were so subliminal.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do feel like I remember seeing it in like a flashback,
It may have been
of
as
her as
that
a
as well. Yeah,
child, and it wasn't in a bed, but like it
it was
was just
either
a
a
shot of
bed or
her.
it was sitting on some, or it may not have been
Mhm.
sitting, but you just see like from waist up of this
Yeah,
figure, sort of.
like I remember specifically a shot of I don't know if it was Lee, but it was a little girl, um, and she took up about half the screen, and it was kind of an upward shot of her, and but behind her was black. There might have been a light in the corner, but it
Hmm.
was for the most part just black behind her. And then I saw like the shadows kind of like looked like they were coming together, I guess you could
Right,
say.
right.
And then I feel like I saw horns and maybe eyes kind of started to kind of come in. And as that was happening, I was like, oh, oh, what's happening? Oh no. And then it was as fast as I
Yeah.
kind of realized it was there, it was gone. And I was like, oh, so that's like the biggest plus to the movie, I think. Um, and even then, it's not like a big point that was
Yeah, I
in
was
the
gonna say,
movie.
like there are moments in the movie, but like as a whole, specifically the narrative, because I think the cinematography is good throughout, but narrative, that's like a big part of a movie in terms of whether you like it or not. You can have, here's the thing, great cinematography and stuff gets you to go see the movie. Got me to go see the movie.
Mhm.
Um, but what gets you to like the movie is the story or the characters and stuff, because like there's other examples, I just can't think of any off the top of my head. 1994's Clerks, I know it's not a horror movie, I could probably think of some, it's not popping in my head right now, but it's not great cinematography, but it's just good characters, good
Mhm.
story, to where by the end you're like, I like that. I had a good time. Not saying you have to have a good time in a horror movie. Um,
Well, the
that's
good time is the horror, like
yeah,
being
yeah, yeah,
afraid, you know?
yeah. But like, I don't know. It's one of those things where you have this beautiful thing. You have this dish, this meal that looks beautiful, but then when you take a bite, when you actually scoop some with your fork and you take a bite, you're like, it's just
That's
it's
it's not as good
it
as it looks.
yeah. And it's like this is mid, and
Yeah.
I paid so much for this.
Mhm. Um, I wanna try and figure out what exactly we're thinking about, um, on the narrative, like, what are the problems? Because, um, another must say point that I wanted to bring up was that actively through the movie, as it would say, what was it like scene 3 or chapter 3, like
Right, right.
it would cut to that, and I'm like,
I don't see the
I don't,
point of that.
I didn't see the point of it either,
Like
but I
I've
felt like
seen
that
I've
was kind of
seen
immersing, immersion kind of altering.
yeah, yeah. Like I've
Um,
seen it used well and have like it sometimes need to be there in recent movies and stuff. My issue is there's a lot of movies the past 5 to 7 years that have done that. Really, I'll say the past decade. The past decade, there's a lot of movies that have done that, and it's half the time it works. Then the other half the time, with movies like this, it just seems like it's an indie idea. It's just like, ooh,
yeah,
let's have part one or chapter
yeah,
one. Like I don't see what it served in this.
right. Um, well, I wasn't a fan, and it actively made me think about the movie as it came up,
Mm,
because it was almost like I was about to see the credits or something, but it would
mhm.
it would pop up chapter something, and I'm like, I didn't even really get into the first part of this, and then like chapter 3, and I was like, I didn't even get into the second part of this. Like I
Yeah,
didn't even
yeah.
get enough of this meat out of whatever these parts are supposed to be
Yeah, now
showing.
that you mentioned that, there was at least one part. I can't remember exactly when, but I do remember a part ended and then it has the part four or whatever
Hmm.
that popped up. And I remember thinking at least this one time of like, wait, like, hold on, like there's that's it of that part. Like you could have done some more stuff there. I don't know. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that now. There was at least one time where I felt that.
um, so I want to say that I, the the issue with the story is likely just the development of the characters. Um, I feel like I didn't know um, Lee as a character,
Yeah,
and that's okay for some situations, but I don't think the other characters around her carried her enough
right.
to be enjoyable as a character. I don't think any of them played enough of a part. Even her partner um, in the in the whole case,
Yeah, I
the
have
guy that was he was
he's just
good.
he
It
did
just he didn't
good.
carry it.
I was gonna say he did good, but like he just played because I've seen that actor play that exact character before because he's been in one or two cop shows or cop movies where he played a
Hmm.
detective or whatever. He just played that character, the stereotypical uh, uh, higher up detective or whatever,
Right.
like helping the person along, and the actor did great with what he was given. I think it's kind of the best you could do with what you're given in terms of the story and how much he's used, which isn't a lot. Um, in terms of like fleshing out anything about him, like at the end of the day, he's just cop guy. He's detective guy that's like Lee. I'm gonna have you help me on this case.
Yeah, you
He's
got some psychic stuff going on.
yeah. Like
We need it.
there's nothing to him. The only thing that's not like I mean, this is stereotypical, but the only thing we know about him is he has a daughter, he has a wife, which you don't have to develop the wife, but she just felt like it's just there. It felt like a mannequin there. They gave her
Yeah.
nothing. Like they gave her
It
one or
felt the
two
same about the
lines.
daughter, even in their
Yeah, yeah,
conversation in the
yeah,
bedroom, very much the
yeah,
same. And then Nicolas Cage, uh, his
yeah,
character Longlegs. Um, again, I was not sold on him as a bad guy, and even if his aura is just supposed to be creepy, I just found him more of a nuisance. Like he's just gonna like this is somebody that gets shot in 2 seconds if he's doing the
yeah,
things that he's doing. It's got to be a little more thought out. Like
yeah.
he's got to be a little bit more elusive. He's got to be a little bit more scary. Like something about him as a bad guy in the way in which he was supposed to be portrayed, I don't think they hit very well.
Yeah, I've looked at interviews because I first thought that like Nicolas Cage just like ad libbed almost everything. Like just Nick Cage being Nick Cage in terms of the dialogue that he's saying and stuff. Like obviously the emotion and stuff, that's just Nick Cage being Nick Cage. But
Right.
the dialogue he was saying, what he was actually saying. And in the interview I saw, it's like, no, that was all on the script. And it was
Hmm.
all just very I don't know, everything he said anytime he said anything, like already he's like a creepy figure. Yeah, you got the makeup, which like isn't great, but what can you do? I guess it adds some scary because it made me think because there were some people that have bashed the makeup, but for me, I'm more like, oh, maybe he's just like scarred, kind of
Hmm.
deformed. I'll chalk it up to that. I'm okay with that. But yeah, like him talking and stuff like that is just very. It's trying to make it creepy, but it's all these like very broad and vague, creepy things that he's saying where there's no real meat to any of it. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm creepy. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, I'm going to sing a
Yeah.
song and I'm singing a song. It's like, oh, okay. Okay. I, is all you're trying to convey with this character, and this isn't blaming Nick Cage, this is a director slash writer problem, is all you're trying to convey with this character is he's weird and creepy. Is
Yeah.
that it? That's all I'm seeing with this guy.
Yeah.
There's nothing more to it. Like I didn't like I was okay like starting off that's how he is because you're introducing this character. But throughout the whole movie he's just very broad, very
Hmm.
vague in his stupid creepy stuff that he was saying.
Um, Well, I have a this brings up a point. So I watched some other reviews and some like the things you didn't notice in Longlegs, and one of them is Nick Cage is like a hair rock guy, and like he is from an era of these bands that were like blamed for Satan worship and stuff, and he
Mhm.
wanted to emulate, their look. And his character Longlegs had supposedly gone through like surgeries and stuff like that, and then makeup to kind of cover the scars, and also have like this androgynous effect that like the hair band people made.
Yeah, yeah,
uh and um and that was one of the points. And then like the being creepy, so like him doing the cuckoo
cuckoo,
cuckoo,
cuckoo.
uh that's supposed to like mean something about the cuckoo bird, but none of that is going to be none of that is going to be transcribed unless you can
Yeah,
really point to it. And not only that, it doesn't make the story better. None of these
no,
deeper meanings to everything that people want to point out, none of that shows a level of genius or shows a level of, we're just the lowly people that didn't get it. It's like we're not it, if we were supposed to get it, they did not design it in a way that we ever would. Like
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
not there, even as much thinking on it as you can, because the characters weren't developed enough um to indicate these things. Like, yeah, you can kind of vaguely make that connection with the makeup and the androgynous look, and him singing like that, and the poster that was up on the wall in the background at one time. But it none of that's relevant though, like to what's
yeah,
going
yeah,
on in the story. Not not in a critical, crucial way.
yeah.
So
And here's the thing, I I don't have an issue with broad or vague dialogue or broad or vague creepy dialogue. My biggest issue with how it's used here is it's throughout the whole movie with him and anyone that's a bad guy or creepy. Like even the mom has some of her lines as well that are vague and broad. Um, it's used throughout, and it's lines that, no offense to the writer, but a lot of these lines feel like film school writer. Like this is like this is creepy. And it's
yeah.
but why? Is it just it sounds creepy? It's broad and it's vague. Like give me meaning behind this. And it's
Mhm.
okay to have that broad and vagueness with some of the stuff the person says, but if you're not going to develop it more throughout your narrative, it just comes off to me. I know the person's probably not, probably is a professional. To me, it comes off very beginner like.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying to write creepy horror stuff, and this is my creepy horror dialogue. That's what it
Yeah.
comes off to me sometimes.
The with the man, there's so many things. I missed my point. My point went away. What was my
well
point?
well
There was go ahead.
I'll mention this one thing, like the movie, like it being fine or bad to us, like isn't just on Nick Cage, but this is one of the other Nick Cage things I have with this is I'm trying to remember my point. I was about to say it. I got so caught up in the build up of it that I forgot. Um,
Well, I remember mine now.
okay, go ahead, say yours.
So there was a vagueness to like a lot of what they were saying. But it was supposed to be like dawning on you uh that it wasn't so vague in some scenarios. Like he's downstairs. In fact, you can call him Mr. Downstairs. That was like a play on he's literally in downstairs.
Yeah, yeah,
He's down in the basement of the person's house of
yeah, yeah.
Lee and her mom's house, um, doing this stuff, and it can work as a double play on the a Satan aspect. Like this is
Yeah.
of the devil, Mr. Downstairs from downstairs.
No, there's some
So
stuff
that's
like with dialogue as well as like some scenes that you
but
might not
I was gonna
understand in the moment, but later on, like
yeah, like you'll get it
thinking about
later,
it.
but I feel
Yeah,
like that was so offhandedly remarked on. This wasn't like a repetitive. This didn't come up 2 or 3 times.
yeah, yeah.
This wasn't like Mr. Downstairs,
Mm.
and then I'm not saying you have to like lay it all out, but like when it's in the messiness of all the other vague statements, it still doesn't like ring in your head or connect a dot that
Yeah, yeah.
and again, it's not like a necessary dot that you need to connect in your brain if it's already being revealed to you in the
Right, right.
end. It's like you said, it seems very beginner-ish, and that's coming from something of a beginner.
I was writing something now because I have two thoughts, like two more critiques. I mean, there's plenty more that I could think of, but they're off my head right now. I remember what I was going to say before is personally, I don't see the reason of seeing Nick Cage so much. You don't see him a lot in the movie. Um, but like one specific thing, like there's other scenes. Like yes, it is cool to see him. He's creepy and you see him acting creepy and stuff, but narratively, I don't know if it really needs to be there sometimes. Like I think we can follow our FBI people until they find the guy. That's where and
Hmm.
one or two scenes with like the very first scene in the movie where he's you find out later it's Lee that he's talking to where like it shows this much of his face and he's saying like I got my long legs on, like that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. That scene's fine. That's fine to have like two, maybe three scenes like that throughout the movie of him talking to a victim or something like that. I'm okay with that. but a scene like when he goes to that convenience store or that hardware
Hmm.
store, I don't think that entire scene needed to be in there. Sure,
Mm-mm.
creepy.
No.
The cuckoo, that's
Yeah.
creepy. Him driving down the road and I'm singing and I'm crazy and now I'm yelling. Like sure, creepy and stuff. But narratively, what does it serve? The only thing it served partially, but you don't need it to be in there, is okay, he's at a hardware store. We don't see specifically what he gets, but I'm assuming he's getting some stuff in building the dolls. Okay. That's the one thing that ties it with the narrative. Other than that, like, I don't think the scene needs to be in there. Yes, it's creepy. Yes, we get to see Nick Cage be Nick Cage. Everyone wants to see Nick Cage. They love Nick Cage. Sure, yeah, he's great. He's weird. But narratively speaking, it doesn't need to be there. It's right in the
Right.
middle of this investigation. If you want to do scenes like that, do more scenes of the seeing part of him and talking to a victim and have it be brief sort of thing. Like those type of scenes I just didn't see the point of
Yeah.
aside
Um,
from here's something creepy.
I'm 100% with you. I didn't think that scene in the store was necessary. Um, I don't feel like it revealed anything. It it again that was one of those moments where I'm like, people would just shoot this guy. Like if this guy was like hanging around my daughter, or or if he's just rolling up like on a regular basis
Yeah, yeah.
in my store, he's just gonna be like kicked out or something. Like
Yeah.
stop.
That's the thing
Like
is I'm not saying it's a bad scene and or anything like that. It's just where it's at, or just with this story, what we're doing, this investigation, it just doesn't need to be there. This
Hmm.
felt like a pretty creepy slash decent short film just placed into the middle of this
Hmm.
that serves nothing but here's something creepy and here's you being able to see his whole face. Like,
And you've never known what he's done. Like,
yeah, yeah.
again, you don't really have that uh I don't want to say attachment, but you don't have that like sense of like how horrible is this guy, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
How insidious is this interaction, you know? But one of the last things I wanted to bring up were the orbs, the brains in these dolls. Allegedly the essence of or the blessing of Satan is supposed to be in them, I think. I, sometimes they're a little too vague. And if they get shot, what is the hex, the curse, the possession broke? Is it essentially over? Is it just a memory trap? Is it how exactly is it being used? Because it seems like a memory trap to Lee, so that she doesn't remember like a large portion of her childhood. But it also seems like it's a possession thing, like it was on the little girl in the very last scene. And the
My thing
fathers.
is, because I was thinking about why did they have the orb? I think it's like one specific narrative thing that they wanted to do, and I'll mention that in a second. But overall, I think, why not just it be the doll? Why do we have to have this little silver orb within the doll? Like you,
Mhm.
all of this is like bull crap. Why can't you just say like the essence is within the doll? Like, why do you have to have this
That's the
stupid little
title of
orb?
this video. It's just book
Like
crap.
all of it is bull crap. Like why can't the essence of Satan just be within the doll itself?
Yeah.
Because we saw the shotgun blast happen, and like the head of the doll blew up, and assumedly that orb blew up as well. Why can't it have just been the doll's head? What, like,
Hmm.
the only narrative reason, I'm not saying this is the reason, but it almost feels like a rewrite because they wanted this one scene. The only reason I see the point of the orb is whenever the 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 guy, the mortician, is doing the autopsy on the doll, and he has to cut the doll's head open. So the only reason I see the point of having the orb is so once he cut the doll's head open, it didn't cause the Satan thing to dispel. It was still within the orb. Other than that, I see no point in why it couldn't just be within the doll
Hmm.
instead of this orb.
Yeah, I mean, there's a precedent for dolls
Yeah,
being vehicles
yeah.
without something inside of them already. So yeah, I don't know. That's I feel like they could have even played that scene with the autopsy better without the ball. Um, he's like, I kind of drilled into the brain, and then I just started, or in the brain, I kind of drilled into the head and made this, you know, opening in it, and I just started hearing these screams and these and this voice chanting my ex-wife's name or something,
I
you
saw
know.
this black fart cloud leak out of them.
um, and there, yeah, there be nothing of the orbs in them, but uh, maybe that's one of those 10 things we didn't know about
Yeah,
Longlegs, is the that there's a historical precedent for orbs having concealed vibrations, and that has a, a property of manipulation and hypnosis or something.
maybe. But a lot of the stuff in this movie is just like bull crap. It's like fun, like narrative and fiction stuff. But a lot of it's just bull crap to where you can just make up. You can just say Satan's in the doll.
Yeah.
Essence of Satan's in the doll. Like you don't have to have the orb. Um, there was another thing. Now I'm 50-50 on this. There's another thing I am 50-50 on, and that's Lee having her Satan sense or her Spidey sense. I understand she has that link because of the doll / the orb thing, but with how little that played into the movie, I don't even really see the point of having it.
Yeah.
It happens 4 to 5 times in the movie. The first time we see is with the Chad detective getting his head blown off.
The Chad
You
meme.
have him. Then you have other instances. You have the time where like Longlegs is at her house. It happens there, and the only purpose of that is like a knock on the door happens shortly after that. Then it happens 1 or 2 more times. Then it happens when she's in her mom's house. This is the one time I like, but ultimately, as a narrative sense, it doesn't matter. It's not like it prevented anything or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a nice little thing when you look back at the movie. It's like, oh, when she's in her mom's house for the first time and she's looking at the door, like she has that sense when she walks by the door. And you don't know then, but you know later, like, oh, because Longlegs is in the basement. Like you walk down that door, he's there. That's why her sense is going off right there. That's why her Satan sense is going off. That's cool. That's cool to look back on once the movie's over. But at the end of the day, narratively, in terms of preventing something or pushing the narrative forward, I'm not seeing a lot of reason to her having psychic abilities. It's
Right.
just something there.
It's like you said, it is kind of like, ooh, but one thing that I think came with it definitely came with the sense when she was looking at the door, is the imagery of the snakes that kept coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what's that mean? It's like, it's the whole Christian imagery thing to me has been so ran into the ground. But also, as me like studying these things for my comic, and getting into these esoteric topics, like the Lucifer sigil that she found, that's like it goes down and loops up, and then there's like a triangle over it.
Yeah, yeah.
That is like a 1950s sect of like Satanism that brought that up. That's like fan fiction. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you mentioned this because it made me remember my first complaint walking out of the movie. Overall, I thought it was disappointing when I walked out. My first complaint I remember saying to my brother and sister, because we all saw it, was Hollywood movies do this all the time, especially when people who didn't grow up with like a religious background or anything, they just see like a horror movie and they quote scripture or something in the horror movie. Like that's all it usually is. It's just like, I'm reading this quote from Revelation. It feels like so like because you can do scary stuff with that. You can do scary stuff with religion, the Bible, and all and not just the Bible. You can expand from there.
Mm-hmm.
But with this script and so many other Hollywood scripts, it's like baby's first scary Bible horror stuff. It's like you didn't do enough research into this for it to truly feel scary or horrific to any of us that like have looked at any of this stuff. This just feels like yeah, it's the stuff when I was like 13 years old and didn't really know about this stuff that much, that I hear a quote from Revelation that this person is saying. It's like, oh, that's creepy. It's like try harder. Like it just feels lazy to me. It feels like it's basic. It's basic Bible / religion horror stuff. And I'm not bashing it. I think you can go very scary and creepy with that stuff. Yeah, I am. I'm bashing the writer because it feels so basic. Like there's so much more you can go for with that. I'm not saying to not do that, to not do the Bible slash religion horror type stuff, but like
Did,
go deeper into it, into your
you,
research and stuff.
did you ever watch? Uh, for one, I'm gonna just say that I think Hereditary did a good job of
Hmm.
of this kind of thing. But did you ever watch the movie Borderlands? It's like a found footage of these guys that go to like somewhere in England or Ireland or something, um,
I
and
don't
they're in
think
this
so.
very dreary town, like very somber town, and like everybody has a frown on their face when they're walking around. Like the locals are just, ugh. Um, and they're doing like a paranormal investigation, um, and they're doing this investigation of this Catholic church. That's a very old church. Um, and man, it's found footage. I think they do a phenomenal job of this uh, imagery of making the church creepy and using it as kind of a tool
Yeah, yeah,
emphasize the horror, and the priest is very spooky, and he's also vague. Like he's very vague in like a good way, but I think he's the one
yeah,
that
yeah.
hired the investigators. Um, and you just it's oh, I go watch the Borderlands. It's a good movie, but it's one of those that I applaud in using imagery, and it's like it really they didn't have to go into much research or depth.
Yeah, yeah.
They really just were able to catch an ambience about it, like an aura of creepiness with the imagery
Yeah.
that I just didn't like. I felt similarly with the Shadows of Satan that kind of coalesced in Longlegs, but that tool wasn't used like Borderlands uses their imagery.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I think that's where some of my overall, like, I'm just not a fan of a lot of Nick Cage's dialogue in this movie. Sometimes it serves a purpose, sometimes it's just the vague, broad stuff that he's saying for creepy sake. Um, but yeah, like I'm okay if you're like tying scripture into horror. It can be done well sometimes, but like if it's just like blah blah blah, like quoting a verse or whatever, and like it's like that's Revelation 14, blah blah blah. It's like oh, like it's like oh okay, like like you're just you just found a creepy verse that maybe deals with Satan,
Yeah.
but that's it. You're just like oh, like there's something creepy. Like
I can't.
expand on that.
I cannot wait to title this video "Long Legs." It's just a bunch of bullcrap.
It is. It's a bunch of I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because I'm reflecting on it now. Aside from the cinematography and the actors, when it comes to the writing, a lot of it just feels like college film student making a creepy indie horror movie.
Yeah, it's
It's
poor.
all creepy and it's weird, but there's no meaning to it.
Hmm.
It's just creepy and vague because that's what I know how to do as a college kid because I'm just now learning the fundamentals of writing.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. But we're gonna need to bring this to a close. I told my girlfriend that I might spend about 20 minutes in there, and she was like, "No, you're gonna spend forever in there. Actually, it's gonna be forever before you come back." And it has turned into 50 minutes of a review, but I think we covered all our grievances with it. I have
Yeah.
more grievances like about the ending and stuff that
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't have to really go into it. It's still just kind of more of the same.
Yeah.
Um so we will call it there. Is there anything that you wanted to finish up with, Brandon?
I'll just say what my initial thought was. It was fine.
Hmm.
Very overhyped. Not the best horror movie of the year. Probably won't even be the scariest horror movie of the year. In terms of best horror movie of the year, I think Abigail is better than this. I think Lisa Frankenstein is better than this. Abigail's not scary, but it's just like I had a great time watching that.
Yeah.
Um, but this was just it was fine.
Well, we plan on cleansing our palate this weekend with some Deadpool and Wolverine. So
Nice.
maybe
Yeah, I'm doing that
we'll go
tomorrow.
back to the review board on that movie next time. But
Sounds good.
thank you for joining me, Brandon, and we will catch you next time, whenever that
Take care.
is.